A native of Waterloo, Iowa, Dale Anderson joined the Michigan State University wrestling team in 1965. Anderson quickly became one of the most accomplished student-athletes in the history of the university. After becoming a member of the team at MSU, the Spartans won their first of 7 consecutive Big Ten titles in 1965 under head coach Grady Pinninger. Anderson won his first Big Ten title at 130 in 1966, which propelled the team to their second team championship. In 1967, Anderson claimed his first of 2 individual national titles and a national team title as well, earning a second individual title in 1968. Anderson ended his Spartan career with a record of 61, 4, and 1, and his .932 winning percentage ranks 4th in program history. He also was named as MSU's recipient of the Big Ten Conference Medal of Honor, which is awarded annually to a male and female athlete that demonstrates the greatest proficiency in the classroom and in athletics. In 2016, Anderson published A Spartan Journey, Michigan State's 1967 Miracle on the Mat. The book chronicles the Spartans' journey to the title, but also speaks about great success of all MSU programs at the time. Anderson earned his law degree from the University of Virginia and went on to a notable career as an attorney and still practices constitutional law. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Dale Anderson.
Thank you. My first bit of advice is never let an attorney take the podium. It's gone forever. I lost one of my oldest and best friends today. His name is Bob Siddons. I'm going to honor him just briefly now. It's apropos that he died today as he was most responsible for my being here today. He was my coach, my mentor, and my friend. We talked a lot on the phone, and my wife and I would go to Iowa to see him. We went twice this summer. Bob is often recognized as one of the greatest or the greatest high school wrestling coaches of all time. My high school in Iowa has more NCAA wrestling champions than any other public high school in the country, and Bob was the reason why. He told me in high school that I would be a national champion. How many of you were told you'd be national champions or what you would be? It's just an amazing epiphany at that moment. And it was an obsession for the next 4 years that I win a national championship. He loved me, and even in the 60s, he wasn't afraid to say so. I loved him, and I hope you can understand my loss. Everyone who knew him will miss him, but he won't miss us. He's in a better place today. Bob would want me to be happy today because he would be so happy for me to be inducted. If there's a lesson for you and me here, it is that if you appreciated your high school or college coach, have you told them that? I think you'll regret it one day if you don't. Now I want to talk about miracles. How many of you believe in miracles? How many of you believe in sports miracles? What is a sports miracle anyway? Seems like everything is. How about we try this? Appalachian State beats the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. Woo! So, what's the greatest one that you've ever seen personally? How about Michigan Wolverine punter Blake O'Neill fumbling the ball and handing it to Spartan Jalen Watts-Jackson, who then scampered 38 yards for the winning touchdown. Again, the best part, it happened in Ann Arbor. Was that just luck, or was it a sports miracle? Or did little brother finally grow up? Thanks. I can't wait to send this video to all of my University of Michigan Wolverine friends, all 2 of them. For those of you who don't follow pro football, the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl last year. The coach, Doug Peterson, who is a Christian, was asked how they won the Super Bowl after losing their number 1 quarterback at the end of the season, even before the playoffs. He said the team took on this mantra: one man can make a difference, a team can make a miracle. I personally think a miracle is something that can't possibly happen, but does. So think about this as a miracle. A team finishes dead last in the Big Ten Conference. 3 years later, they win the national championship. It's never, ever been done. Oh, wait, we did it. How did that happen? We were mostly underclassmen and walk-ons. So there was no excuses amongst us. Finally, speaking of miracles, this is my favorite quote about them. I'd like for you to think about it and wonder if anybody knows who said it. There are only 2 ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is. I'm going to come back to that at the end of my little talk here. I believe personally everything is a miracle. I'm going to tell you a little story about me. I was born in a small farmhouse in Iowa that had no electricity and no running water. So I grew up in a family of 6, 4 siblings, that could best be characterized as old school gritty. Some might call it third world gritty. If you don't think so, try this. We had an outhouse. Think about using that in 10 below 0 weather or 110 degrees. I'd like to tell you all the gritty stories I have growing up. There are a lot of them, but I have some time constrictions here, so I'm going to move on to some of my thank yous, and I have so many of them. So many people to be thankful for and so many things to be thankful for. First, I thank God, of course, the source of all miracles. Then I want to thank my parents. I never really thanked them in life, and I never told them all they did for me. It's hard to forgive myself for that. If your parents sacrificed for you and you love your parents, thank them for all they did. That's probably the most important advice that I can give, besides never letting an attorney take the podium. But you will regret it one day if you don't do that. I sincerely regret not telling them and not telling them enough how much they did for me. I thank you, Sandy, my wife, for sticking with me and by me through thick and thin during our marriage. Thank you, my old teammates who are here. I hope I don't miss anybody. I'm going to go through them real quick. Gary, Don, Dale, Dave, Tom, who was our Rudy, and Brad, who made an average team a great team. And let me send a shout out to another wrestler on our team, Jack Sindel, who is struggling right now, and we're praying for you, buddy. Thanks to Barbara Ball, who supported me during my time at Michigan State. I stayed with her. I was a walk-on when I came. She thought of me as big brother and cheered me on as one, and thanks to her mom and dad, who treated me like family. I thank some of my oldest lifelong friends, my great friends from Waterloo, Iowa days, Mike and Bev Chapman, who traveled here from Iowa for this celebration. Mike is thought by many, including me, to be the most important person in the history of wrestling and documenting and writing about it. I thank my old coach, wrestling coach, Grady Penninger, and his daughter for being here. Grady had and has a lot of wonderful qualities. The best one, I think, is what a great family man he is. One way to know how great a man is to look at his kids and see how they relate to him. Grady's kids very sincerely love their father and mother. I can give no higher praise. But I have another plaudit for Grady. Has anyone ever coached 2 kids in high school who became Olympic champions? I guess it's possible, but most unlikely. Grady Penninger, my old college coach, had 2 high school wrestlers who later became Olympic champions. One ended up as our assistant, Doug Blubaugh. So not only was Grady a great family man, he also was a great high school and college coach. Would everyone here join me? Grady's here, I'm sure. Would you join me in giving Grady a much-deserved round of applause? Thanks, Grady. We love you, Grady. Grady is also famous for his many quotes. They're called Gradyisms. His last and my favorite is this. He said that when he dies, he insists that this will be on his tombstone. I'd rather be here than in Ann Arbor. That is a classic. Doug Blubaugh, our Spartan assistant coach, is not here to celebrate with the team he helped so much to build. He's watching the celebration from heaven. I loved him. I miss him. I think everyone who knew him does. Grady and Doug made the perfect wrestling coaching combination, in my opinion, the best ever. Last but not least, I want to thank my son, Seth, who was here for the celebration. I could never have dreamed of a better son. It certainly was not because of me he turned out so well. He's now a 29-year-old entrepreneur and doing fantastically. We, Sandy and I, could not be more proud. Immediately after college, Seth went on his own with his beautiful wife, Emily, and their fantastic baby, Abel. He lives in Cleveland, and thank God, not in our basement. Actually, we'll probably be living in his basement someday. So that concludes my thank yous for now. I want to just very briefly tell you about my sojourn here at Michigan State in the 60s and our team's sojourn. I couldn't wrestle my freshman year at Michigan State as I was ineligible as a transfer and a freshman. Freshmen were ineligible then anyway. So I went to the wrestling meets solely as a spectator, and you could hear a pin drop at those meets. For some reason, there was no noise, nor were there any spectators. The wrestlers couldn't even get their girlfriends to go. That was no fun at all. So my sophomore year, I started the year by breaking a bone in my arm, and I decided to wrestle through it. That was nothing short of a miracle, but it also required some grit on my part. We suddenly began to have great crowds. We won meets we never should have won. As Hillary would say, what happened? I think, guess you had to read the book. I think we became very aggressive and apparently fun to watch. And we developed grit, Spartan grit. So my sophomore year, we won the Big Ten championship. Now remember, this is only 2 years after we finished last in the Big Ten. We won the Big Ten championship. I didn't win it, we won it. We started a mini dynasty. 7 years in a row, the Michigan State wrestling team won the Big Ten. That is the most in Michigan State history. No Spartan sports program has ever won 7 consecutive Big Ten championships. You can look it up. Was that a miracle? I think so. We won the Big Ten tournament 3 years in a row when I was here, and then there was 4 more after that. The next year, my junior year, 1967, 50 years ago, we looked beyond the Big Ten to the nation. Oklahoma State was unbeatable in wrestling, and Oklahoma was just as bad. They had a 40-year stranglehold on the NCAA championship. No one could beat them. We were not under the delusion that we could beat them or win a national title. I think we just wanted some respect. Ironically, as an aside, one of the greatest songs of all time came out. At least I think one of the greatest of all time came out this time. Originally by Otis Redding and then made famous by the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, and it was called Respect. Another interesting coincidence. That year, 1967, Oklahoma beat Oklahoma State. So they both had third-string wrestlers who were on full scholarship. Well, more than half of our team were walk-ons. We were David, and they were Goliath, and we slaughtered them in the national tournament. We won the national tournament that year. Dale Carr, one of the greats on our team, called it a perfect storm. It was a bad storm for them, and it was a good one for us. I call it a miracle. In that national tournament in 1967, obviously I had to win for us to win. In the finals, I wrestled a Japanese wrestler, and I doubt if anybody, except my mother, gave me any chance to beat him. He was better in every way, every technique, stronger, quicker. There isn't one thing he wasn't better than I was, and he had just beaten a bronze medal winner and a returning national champion, so he was very, very good. There was only one thing that I had that was better than him, and that was grit. I was getting beaten up the entire match, but I never gave up, and I really won the match in the last second. So when talent fights grit, which wins? In my experience, it's been grit every time. I've mentioned grit several times already. Researchers studying success have concluded that the number one most important ingredient for success in life, no matter what your occupation or your sport, is grit. So what is grit? Well, it's stick-to-itiveness. It's stamina. It's looking at the big challenge as a marathon. It's being obsessed. It's courage. Most importantly, it's never giving up. So one thing I would ask you, if you're an athlete, is do you have grit? Look back on some of your issues that you've had in your life, big problems. Did you face them, or did you quit? Do you have grit, or do you quit? So in summary, in 1964, when I was a senior in high school, MSU was last in the Big Ten. The Spartans got 1 point in the Big Ten tournament. In 1967, 3 years later, we not only won the Big Ten, we won the national championship, and that has never been done before or since. I would think everyone would agree that is a miracle. So 50 years later, I decided to write a book about my time and team at Michigan State. My friend Mike Chapman, who has written dozens of books, was unbelievably helpful in editing it. So many other team members contributed so much to the completion of the book. And if anybody wants the book, I'll be happy to give them a copy after the ceremony. Mike Chapman and my teammate Dave Campbell gave it a name, A Spartan Journey, Michigan State's 1967 Miracle on the Mat. You saw a picture of it. It took us 3 years to go from nobodies to national champions. It took us 3 years to write this book. I've written dozens of law books, mainly about the Constitution, but I've never written a book like this. If anybody is interested in getting the book after you leave, you can go to 67spartanbook.com. Lots of pictures, and you will see me 100 pounds ago. We gave these books to Roger Chandler, our Spartan wrestling coach, to give to all the wrestling teams, so presumably they have it. And then for tonight, anybody can have the book if they want it. Finally, speaking of miracles again, let me end where I started and reread the quote. There are only two ways to live your life. One is as if nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is. Who said that? Does anybody know? Einstein. Einstein said that. In my opinion, if you don't believe in miracles, you're never going to see one, as every miracle then becomes a coincidence. More importantly, you're never going to experience one. Don't let unbelievers steal your miracles. I experience miracles every day. Go green, and God bless. Thank you.